Good morning and
Morning.
welcome to Coffee Time with Kauffman, the comfortable place to talk about women's leadership. Today we are talking about diversity and inclusion. But before I get into that, my name is Maria Kauffman and I'm a life coach. We have Shayna Duminie as our guest today.
Shayna.
Shayna, sorry,
It's
Shayna
okay.
Duminie as our guest today. What did I even say? I don't even know what I said.
Shanae. It's
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
It's all right. Good morning.
Good morning. Shayna is a technology consultant with 8 years of experience in engineering with impressive advancements. She has developed pertinent skills to successfully partner with a plethora of industry leaders. Her diverse involvement within engineering, consulting, business development, sales engineering, and application engineering with expertise in strategy clearly sets her apart from others. So, Shayna, what are you drinking this morning?
I have tea today, no coffee. I usually get my coffee from Starbucks, but it's a ginger and peach herbal tea
Ooh.
for calm stomachs. So
Uh, Actually, yeah, I probably could use that this morning. My stomach's not feeling terribly well, so nice. And
yeah.
I am drinking my typical dark roast, but it is a Pete's Major Dickinson's with some French vanilla creamer.
Ooh, nice.
So, Shayna, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a mechanical engineer by degree, but I'm currently working as a key accounts manager at Semitech Group, which is a channel partner of ANSYS, which is a world a global developer of analytical software for engineering, product development, and verification. Um, Personally and for volunteer work, most importantly, I'm a mother. My daughter Sadie turns
Oh,
9 in April. I'm also a board member of the University of Illinois Chicago alumni advocate, and I also recently became the league commissioner of Schaumburg Athletic Association basketball. So, oh, and then member of National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, and work some volunteer opportunities with some STEM programs as well.
wow, that's incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
How do you do it?
How do I do it? I like being busy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just really keeps me motivated and going. I don't like to be complacent, and I just like to try new things and see if I can succeed and add value. So just keep going.
Awesome. So, how did you get into mechanical engineering?
How did I get into mechanical engineering? So my mom is actually a mechanical engineer as well. She retired very, very early and became a stay-at-home mom. But before that, she was a mechanical engineer in the, I think, early 80s. So she had a lot of stories for me, but she told me that if you were a woman that had a discipline in math and science, that you would be a commodity because there's just none at that time. So that was her thought process, and she kind of pushed me towards that realm because she wanted me to be different and to do something that was out of the ordinary. So
Wow, that's pretty awesome to have that kind of influence as
yeah,
as you're in your family, as your mom, kind of in that daily environment. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. My dad was an electrician.
My dad's an
So
electrician.
yeah, how about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, very
Yes.
cool.
And that's where, for me, it was fun when on the weekends when he would take the kids and mom would have a break.
Mm.
I was the one that was interested in holding the flashlight and I
Uh,
wanted to know what dad was. And the boys, like my two older brothers, they could care less.
yeah, that's an electrical engineer on your side, right?
That's
Yes,
right. Yeah.
makes
So
sense.
when I started college, I was kind of in denial that I wanted to follow my father's footsteps.
Yeah,
Um, so it took me a while to claim electrical, but I knew it was going to happen. So
yeah. Yeah, it
Cool.
happened. Yeah.
Awesome. So what other influences growing up helped you, either with that you have a very, self-driven,
Hmm.
personality, it sounds like, where you like to keep busy,
Hmm.
tackle the things. Anything else that stands out from an early influence that helped you take your career path?
Yeah, I know that just kind of through studies and whatnot, just people, different mentors of mine, just saying that I was actually I started in college as a chemical engineer. That was my
Ooh.
first major, and my chemistry teacher told was kind of my influence of doing that. But
Yeah.
after a while, I realized that it wasn't for me, and I
Chemical's pretty intense.
yes, it's very intense, and it's more so also a lot of memorization instead of logic and just very strict logic and strategy. I think that chemical engineering, yes, definitely has the logic and the math and the calculus and all that stuff, but it also has a lot of memorization. I don't do well with with memorization, so
Yeah, agreed. Me as well.
um, but yeah, so I think a lot of mentors in my high school realm just kind of my environment at home, just people pushing me to be as best the best version that I wanted to, as well as I decided ultimately because I was like, okay, what how could I make the most money out of college with just a bachelor's degree? And all of Google pointed towards engineering. So
It's funny you say that because in 10th grade, I took the differential aptitude test, and that was the first time I even heard. Well, the differential aptitude for me directed me toward an engineering degree.
oh.
But I came home and I told my mom, I'm like, well, I don't want to drive a train for the rest of my life. And she was like, oh no.
Yeah, they do use engineering very interchangeably between a lot of different, disciplines.
Yeah, you're
So,
basically a problem solver. But
right.
once I started to, research that and find out what an engineer is, that
Hmm.
was the big thing. It gave me
Hmm.
that financial ticket,
Yeah.
because we didn't we didn't grow up very, wealthy. We didn't have a lot of money. So
Mm.
the financial piece can be a pretty good motivator in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you have a pretty diverse exposure within your career. Help us
Hmm.
understand how you took some of those opportunities to really build such a diverse resume.
Yeah, so I mean, as as far as when I was still in college, I took a co-op at IBM, which was as a developmental engineer intern. And during that time, I kind of realized that as work goes, the actual work of being able to develop new things and optimize it and make it as
Mhm.
efficient as possible is I love that. I'll do that for fun. Like but doing that every day in conjunction with not really being too collaborative with other people, you kind of have your specific role and you do it in the corner by yourself. Um, it just personally wasn't for me. So I went back and I talked with my advisor and I asked her, what are some of my options out of college as far as what routes I can take with my degree? And the conversation about application engineering came up, which is usually not a route people take right out of college. They usually work as a design engineer or something like that first, and then get into application engineer possibly. But I right out of college, I was an application engineer, which is kind of a mix between sales and engineering. So you're kind of that
Mm,
liaison between the two.
yeah.
Um, and then I really liked that. I still got to use my technical degree and validate applications that came in that were customizable at the company I worked for at that time. So I felt very validated in that way. But then I kind of got a taste of sales too. So in the midst of doing that, I'm building relationships. I'm talking to all these different people and hearing about all the cool stuff that they're doing, and just having those type of correspondences with people. And then during that time, I realized how much that salespeople were making.
Oh,
So then my next role after that was kind of like a fully sales role, except for I've always been in technical type sales roles. So
yeah.
it's still, I'm able to utilize my degree, I feel, because I get maybe a little bit deeper than other people in my same position, or think a little bit more strategically or logically. So I still feel validated in that way when I'm working with software solutions that are strictly for, product development and making processes more efficient. So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Cool. So, what is it like being a woman engineer?
What is it like? It's it was okay. I think in college, I think I always found ways to um kind of block out like the microaggressions of being a woman engineer,
Mhm.
and just focus on how I can capitalize off of it. So that's kind of, I've always had like a positive outlook on things of how I can twist it to be something positive for me instead of thinking
Mm,
about things that may have happened in certain situations. So like for example, I mean, I've come across people when I got into more the sales roles, and I have this engineering degree. I've had colleagues actually ask me, "Are you really an engineer? Like, do you really have a
oh.
degree?" And
Oh,
like,
like to your
so
face.
right, yeah, and, or make some type of comment like, "Oh, you're an engineer, shouldn't you know this?" or something like that.
Oh.
So I
Mm,
think that yeah, but there's been situations like that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of block those out and keep going. But there's a lot of, I mean, as far as, being a woman in like a male dominated industry,
Mhm.
um, you, it can, it can, it depends on your environment, it like all situations aren't the same. So as a woman engineer, it was just kind of focusing on, how I can utilize my environment to progress in my career. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. And you've been working for 8 years. Have you seen a difference over those 8 years in environments and maybe, uh, in 2 ways? There's that obviously after 8 years and clearly you're very capable and confident, how has that changed? And maybe how also then has that changed in the outer world and how people treat you?
I would say that it's definitely changed. I see a lot more women in meetings that I have, and I see a lot of women in the company I work for as well. I think that there's a lot more work to do, but I definitely seen some positive changes, and I think that that's directly attributed to just more representation in the media, politically, and
Mm,
people just realizing that it's more of a norm to put women in positions that they may have not thought were meant for them at a point. So
great. Yeah. So, I've left an engineering career after 30 years. I was probably more in denial. Like you
mm,
said, I had to adapt and create some
right.
survival strategies
Mm,
and basically flip it. I knew that and I experienced some of those microaggressions, but I had to just like pretend that it was neutral.
yeah. Hmm.
And now we start having some conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really cool that we're even able to have those conversations and
Yeah.
bring that to the table now. What makes it so important, and really, what is it? Because to be honest, I'm not an expert. I know, you're not an expert either,
No.
other than we live life as humans.
Yeah.
From your perspective, how would you define it, and why is it so important?
In my perspective, I would define diversity as have the makeup of a body. So it's diversity is kind of just at a school or a business or anything like that. It's just having a mix of different genders, races, sexual orientations, all of that stuff. It's just having a good mixture of that. And that's diversity, in my opinion. And then inclusion is more so that you have that diversity of all these different makeups of people that actually have influence and
Mhm.
authority and can create decisions that make change. So I think that they work together in a way, but they're not interchangeable. A company could be diverse and not be inclusive at all, I feel. Um,
Oh, gotcha.
yeah. So that's my opinion. And I think it's important to have the conversation, just kind of like you said, the moral standpoint, like just a holistic view of humanity. Um, just knowing that if we are able to help one identity of people, we all benefit. And if one identity of people is at a low, or they're just at a really bad place, then it affects us all. Like we live in the same world,
Yeah.
so it's just a humanity moral thing. But
Yeah.
also in a business standpoint, there's actually many statistics out there that talk about the return on investment of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just kind of like the bottom line of increasing revenue and just retaining your employees.
Yeah. So, I think too, as I've started my business as a coach to help women stay in engineering fields, that's there's a part of that that is the driving motivator for me too, is to help more women understand how important it is for them to claim that identity and to pursue and be driven in some of these situations, uh, to really pave their own way, because everyone, in the end, it's not like they're going to come knocking on your door and ask you to do these things. We really have to get driven from the inside and take that. So that's why it's so impressive to hear, all the things that you do, and you definitely have some of that drive within you. How would you help inspire other people
Mhm.
to see this as like the land of opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, personally, like as far as women go, I think it's just really important to, like you said, like kind of stand out and not be afraid to uh, have your voice heard. I think for a long time it was kind of like you said, I was like adapting and just being very accommodating and not trying to be a spectacle because I already felt like I was. Like I was just
Right.
trying to hide behind like whatever I needed to do and get done and stuff. I didn't want to rock any boats or do anything like that. But it kind of caused like a feeling of resentment after a while, because it's like I had all of these opportunities to really stand up for the women that were coming after me and make a
Yeah.
better workplace for them. And I could have done that. I was like the only woman in an office, and I didn't take the opportunity to stand up for all the women coming after me. So I think representation matters so much, and just not even like for children, not even in engineering, like for me being a league commissioner for the basketball league, for the girls basketball league. I think usually you see men as the coaches, and they're the coaches even for the little girls leagues. And I think it's important for those little girls to see women coaches and women in power in these leagues and stuff like that. And even with engineering, like if you are an engineer, like and you have kids, go to their school and make sure you do job fairs, make sure you talk about what you do, make sure kids know that it's a normal thing to see a woman in that position. And just that widespread spread thought, if every woman did that, that was in leadership or an industry that didn't have enough representation of women, we would probably see an increase of little girls kind of being like, oh, I remember this woman I saw at my job fair, this woman when I was playing basketball, and I can do that too. And we would see an increase of that participation with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very well said. That is, I believe, incredibly inspirational, something that everybody needs to hear. So I still look at a lot of times, uh, a lot of my clients are, one of their biggest challenges is burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I hear about all the things that you're doing, and you just look so, and maybe, this is just, from what I see and notice, it seems like all of these things and actually being incredibly active actually uh, gives you energy and more drive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you ever get burnout? What's life like for you?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of has to have a reset and burnout, but I do think that when when you're forced to be in an environment where you're not comfortable,
Mhm.
or you feel like the oddball out, or you feel like you're changing yourself completely to try to fit into a mold, and you have to do that every day, go to work and do that every day, that's how
Draining.
you can easily get burnout. Like when you're enjoying what you're doing and where you're going to work and you just love all the people that you work with, and you might talk to people like outside of work and stuff. It's just like fun and a community and a great culture. Like you'll probably be less likely to burn out in that way. But I think everyone gets to a point where they just kind of need a vacation, they need a reset and all of that. But I
Yeah.
think that that's another reason diversity and inclusion is very, very important, because people burn out when they have to go to work every day and put on a mask.
Yes.
So it's it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, of course. That kind of, the idea of putting on a mask certainly kind of alludes to imposter syndrome as
Mhm.
well. And I
Mm.
agree, right? So being burnt out is kind of like a little indicator that maybe you can shift your perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to revisit either how you're showing up or where you're showing up,
Mhm.
and either change a perspective or change a situation. I
Mhm.
know for me, especially once I became a mom,
Mm.
that was uh, a whole nother level of influence.
Yeah.
One, it upped my game on, like you said, what kind of leader do I want to be for my daughter?
Mhm.
If I don't take these opportunities and stand up for myself and show her, and so even if she's not even watching, just to be living a life where you can kind of, claim yourself and step into your potential, I felt was the best opportunity to up my game in leadership was when I became a mom.
Mhm.
Um, so, the whole idea of imposter syndrome, when I heard that, it really made me think, how true have I been to myself throughout my long career? And it certainly opens up a whole nother level of conversation. Have
Mhm.
you ever felt like an imposter?
Oh, I would say that's a tough one. I guess I wouldn't say like on a consistent basis, probably, but there's been many times where I just kind of let things happen that probably shouldn't have happened, or
Yeah.
just kind of brought awareness to a comment that could
Yeah.
make, not even maybe that might be directed at me, but just a comment in the air that might be uncomfortable for anybody in the room or something like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually being an imposter, but it was just
Hmm.
n-
Yeah.
not standing up sometimes. and letting things happen that shouldn't.
Yeah. And I know for me, there were definitely times where either I was just too young to even know. Like sometimes some of these things come out of the blue
Yeah.
and you don't know, and you're so caught off guard
Mhm.
by the situation that it's hard to respond. But there is a part of that definitely after 30 years. I like to look at it in this big picture
Mhm.
where, yeah, maybe I didn't respond there, but there's a part of me that's going to kind of remember and be a little bit more prepared
Mhm.
for other opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, that's really good thought process, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk technical. Tell me, like, feel free to get technical. What are the most technical things that you love about what you do?
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool. As far as the software that I work with today, it's across like all physics, so it's mechanical, electrical, fluids, systems, uh, and then that kind of does subcategories into different realms as well. There's optical engineering, so the plethora of applications that I kind of run across is just like infinite. And we just work with a lot of different companies, and yeah, so as far as my technical appetite, I definitely get that. But the people the people that use the software are very, 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 very intelligent. So it can be intimidating at some points, but I think I love to be in the room with people like that. So
That's what I was going to say. So it's almost like a double dipper. So there's a technical aspect just of the nature of the software that you get into.
mhm.
It's very mentally stimulating,
Yeah.
but then it gets you into the room with
Hmm.
people.
Yeah, definitely. Not so much now because of COVID, but the
Uh,
physical room, that is.
right,
Yeah.
right. So what I know in our conversation, I had a highlight on a topic of emotional intelligence. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that was something that I added or if that was just something that I witnessed from some of the things that you talked about, where it's obvious that you have a level of emotional intelligence that you bring with you.
Hmm.
Any comments on that? Do you know how you've developed your emotional intelligence?
Oh, I am not sure how it developed, honestly. If I really think about it, I'm gonna have to talk to my therapist about that. But um, I just remember at a really young age, just like being very empathetic
Mm.
towards people, and maybe that's because I've always been different. Like, so it's
Ah,
when I went all throughout my life, even when I started elementary school. When I started elementary school and kindergarten, I think my family was like the only Black family in the entire school, like from kindergarten to sixth grade. So I think at an early age, like just being knowing that I was different from all of my peers in a physical way, um, it just made me have to think about other people's perspectives, like it was like
ah,
um
yeah.
this person doesn't do the same thing as the stuff as I do at home. Like my hair is kind of different from this person's hair. We have to do our hair different. I'll have my hair in braids sometimes and beads, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your hair." And I'm like, and I had to be like, "Oh, they've never seen this before." So it's like I've always had to kind of realize even at a young age that people are different and we don't do the same thing. So I think that that's probably where it came from if I had to, make a guess right now.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
but I think emotional intelligence is so important, and I think that just that empathy portion is just the most important thing of being a leader. Like, I don't think you can be an effective, successful leader without a sense of emotional intelligence and empathy, and realizing that it's not all about you, and there's so many other different perspectives that can give you a holistic perception of the world and
Yeah.
your business and what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So what can you tell us about maybe part of what your mom was a mechanical engineer, but she stayed home to take care of the kids as you grew up? What kind of influences came from that, do you think?
I think having her there was just because it was she was definitely very, very present, which I appreciate. I think either way, I think it's hard for kids when their parents are like working to
Yeah.
really even know what they do. Like they don't.
Ah,
If you asked my daughter what I do for work, she
ah,
probably would say she works on the computer at home. That's what she would say. I think now
right.
she knows that I went to school for engineering and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think when I think with my mom being home and volunteering for all my stuff at school and always being like she did substitute teaching too. Like
Oh,
she just tried to be present in our schools at any opportunity that she could,
yeah.
and that was a security for me. It was a comfortability for me. It made me know that my mom she was always around, and she was always also all of my friends when she volunteered and stuff, all of my friends and all of my peers in the class, like she was like an authority figure. But even as
Ah,
a teacher, I mean, most of my teachers were women, I guess, so that was a sense of authority, but in a education realm.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that that was a good influence for her to be present and to kind of be an extra layer of just comfortability in certain situations. So
Yeah, cool. Any advice you'd give to young girls who may have an interest in math, science, anything in those early ages to
yeah.
help them take a direction? It sounds like you obviously had to navigate a little bit. You talked to some people, made some changes, and figured out your path. What would you say to young people?
I would say if you have an interest in math and science, definitely explore that. Like, get into different programs, groups. There's so many programs now that were not there when I was younger. Like, they have coding
Yeah,
classes for
I
kids.
know. Is
They
that
have
cool?
It's so cool. It's so very cool. And they have like robotics competitions for kids. Like they have all of these really cool things that if you have interest in math and science, there's so many options for you to kind of explore that further.
Yeah,
And I would encourage them to do that now so they can kind of be ahead when they decide that that's what they want to do. And it might be not be engineering, it could be, you know,
right.
computer science or being a developer or whatever the case may be. It could be something technical or it could not be at
Yeah,
all. Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
I remember I also did co-op through college,
Hmm.
and I remember one of my favorite bosses, in my co-op days, told me a story. And this was you touched about this a little bit earlier. Here's how it landed for me: is that I would hear these stories, right? So my boss, as when I was a co-op, told me a story about one of his college buddies
Hmm.
that they both, were, on the same track during the college years. As soon as they graduated, he took the normal track, doing electrical engineering, doing the normal thing. And his buddy basically took that degree and went into insurance.
Hmm.
It basically was this place where it's kind of like, boy, once you get that education,
Right.
you can mold life and your
Yeah.
career trajectory any way you want to,
Yeah.
right? So it is very interesting. I too have had, in my career, I've worn different hats. I've done
Mhm.
consulting,
Mm.
contracting, worked for OEMs,
Yeah.
for sales a little bit. I felt also that by nature of having a diverse resume,
Mhm.
really spoke to just my diversity as a person.
Yeah, definitely.
And I see some similar traits in you too.
Yeah.
Uh, what is some of your driving factors on how you want to navigate your career and where you see yourself in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think that having that diversity as a person, um, makes you more relatable to different people. So it's like, what
Mm.
is diversity really? We have these silos of things like race and gender and sexual orientation, and the list goes on. But I think diversity could be as simple as, just a unique perspective, like just someone that brings something different to the table as far as a thought process. And I think that having these experiences with so many different people and so many different um, uh, groups, or whatever you want to say, just makes you able to be more successful because you're able to relate to more people. And I think that, as far as my career goes, I definitely want to just be able to build my influence as much as I can.
Ooh.
So
Ooh,
I
tell
don't
me
know what
more.
that.
Like what? Like when I had 8 years of experience, like I didn't talk like that. I wish I did.
Oh,
That's
really?
really Oh yeah, yeah. Build my influence. Oh, I wish I. Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's
think
impressive.
I don't know exactly what that title means or anything like that at this point, and I don't know what it is. But influence is very, very important to me. I want to be somewhere where I'm able to create change and create processes that are efficient and just improve
Yeah,
things in the business and in a certain process, a workflow. So just, yeah, definitely influence.
awesome. Cool. So there almost seems like there is this cross place where just diversity, even from a resume perspective, and then kind of in humanity, like you said, with all kinds of different races, sexual orientation, like whoever you are, that's where the real influences for the future come, because it does allow for different perspectives.
Hmm.
It allows us to think of progress and improvements, whether that be, in humanity or in the technical realm. They all intertwine
Yeah.
and they're
Hmm.
all related.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. So it has been a fascinating and lovely conversation. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that this was a great conversation. I would say that in some of my research and on the moral side of things, there's a book by Heather McGee,
Ooh,
and it's called The Sum of Us, and
ooh,
it's just talking about, humanity as a whole, and just being, the pay it forward type of model. And I think it's a really good book for everyone to read to just be a better person. So I would definitely recommend that.
awesome. Love the book references. Always love to explore, learn more things. That's awesome. Is there anything in closing that you'd like to share as far as some inspiration?
Yes, I actually have a quote that I saw, and I was like, this is like perfect. But it is from Dr. Robert Sellers. He's the Chief Diversity Officer of the University of Michigan. And it says, diversity is where everyone is invited to the party. Equity means that everyone gets to contribute to the playlist. Inclusion means that everyone has the opportunity to dance. When businesses prioritize DEI, it encourages a more innovative, positive environment, which in turn creates a more profitable company. And most importantly, it means we all get to dance.
That is perfect and really
Yeah.
important to hear. Thank you for sharing. So,
Yeah.
thank you for being a part of the conversation for inspiring women's leadership. Coffee Time with Kauffman is the comfortable place to talk about women's leadership, because I am on a mission to help the world discover the truth about what women are capable of. When you are ready for your leadership mastery makeover, go to mariakauffman.com and click on Consult a Coach, where you can schedule time with me for an empowerment session. Have a great week and enjoy your adventures and journey responsibly. Shayna, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.